Hello. So I'm going to get started. I have 3 ply ready to go on my needle here of black. I am going to start with this flower. And this very center circle part, I'm just going to do some satin stitch. I'm going to start the center here, center line. And it really does not need to be perfect. I mean, don't worry too much about hitting those guidelines because we're going to do a ring of French knots around it, so it's going to get covered up. Not my best satin stitch, but like I said, not really aiming to make it perfect. We just want to at least cover those guidelines. Alright, that's that. Now I'm going to go around. I'm going to come up near that guideline. I'm going to do my, let's do double wraps on these. So let's go 1, 2, and then when I come down with my needle, I'm going to go down and kind of touch where I went down with the satin stitch so that these have some coverage there and down. That worked out pretty well. Alright, so up at the outer guideline, 2 wraps, down on the inner guideline, and I'll just make my way around. French knots, you either love them or hate them, huh? If you are in the second category, you could definitely do something else here. I just used French knots for texture, so you could add a different textured stitch. You could just do a ring of chain stitch around that satin stitch center. Okay, I have 2 more I can fit in here, I believe. It's like 2 at each what do I want to call that direction, I guess, north, east, south. So 8 total is how many I was able to fit. And actually, that coverage looks pretty good. So if you do that, and like, let's say you only did 7, and maybe there's like a little gap, you could just add like a little straight stitch in between if you see any holes. That would be no problem. Alright, so now I have my orange color. Just have a full ply. You can see mine's all crinky? I don't think. Crimped. There we go. Because it was on a bobbin for a long time. Alright, so this is pretty fun. We're just gonna do straight stitches. Out to in. So this flower up here is going to be created in the same way as this flower, but with just different colors. So I'm not going to be showing that one on camera. Stitch order in general for this one. Really, it doesn't matter. I usually like to do my flowers first and then do my greens. There's gonna be some interaction over here between this flower we're doing now and the whatever that crazy flower is that goes up. One with the pinks. So for now, don't worry about those other guidelines. Okay, I think you get the idea of what that's going to look like, because I probably don't need to stitch every single petal here on camera. Alright, so what I'm going to do is on top of those is I'm just going to be doing my detached chain stitches. You can see, like, this one I didn't add a detached chain stitch on top, and that's fine. here's one I didn't do either, or that one. If it's getting too cramped, then just don't do one. Or add more if you need to. Alright, so, I mean, I guess I should have come up right at the base of this stitch, but I came up kind of next to it. I think I'm going down on it though. But what you do want to make sure you do is come up through this same hole here. And you gotta be careful. You don't want to like see right how I'm coming up through it and I'm also splitting the stitch. I don't really want to do that. I want to just be friends here and like share a hole if we can. And I think that's what I'm doing here. Yeah. It is hard to see. There we go. That's the end of my floss there I pulled through. I don't really want that. Okay. Alright, so here's my loop. Catching my loop. I know I did that kind of awkwardly. Super awkwardly. This was a poor example of how to do this. I was so concentrated on where I was going to come out that I didn't actually do a detached chain stitch. I did, it's just my, wow, this is a minor disaster. Okay, come on, my friend. I don't know why that's so tight. Okay. And I can see there's a kink right there from my floss. That's why I don't feel bad about not doing bobbins. If you do have kinky floss like me, because you are using bobbinated floss, you can give it like a little bath and lay it out flat. That should get rid of the kinks. Or if you really have some kinky floss, you can iron it to get rid of that. Alright, it's looking a little better. So up the base, back down in the same hole. Leave a loop, catch that loop by coming up through this little hole. Getting stuck on something back here. You know what? Yeah, I have a little knot in my floss. One of those twisty knots. There we go. Okay. There we are. This stitch got a little whack. There we go. You might prefer to do the detached chain stitches first, and that's fine. And then do those center stitches. You could try either way and do what works best for you. But that's it. We're just going to go all the way around the flower doing this. Pay attention to that tension on these detached chain stitches. Pull too tight and they're going to be straight lines. So you want to make sure you have it loose enough so you have that nice roundedness. Like this one I just did was actually kind of tight. So I'm going to come in here and loosen it a little bit and pull. I find if I pull really slow, once it gets where I want, I can stop. I feel like, I know I didn't share the hole here, but see how I have this gap? I think part of it's because of where I came up. I'm gonna stick with it if I need to. Well, let's do the next stitch, because it could be that next stitch will help push that over. It also seems like I could use another stitch right here, right? As you can see, I have this little gap here too I need to fill in. So when I do this detached stitch, I'll make sure I come up way at that bottom to cover that. through our shared hole. Tricky. Looks a little better. And so let's see, for this little gap, maybe I just do a single straight stitch and just leave it like that. I think that works. All right, I'm gonna finish up my flower and then we'll move on to the rose. Excellent. So I finished my daisy. I had to add an extra couple petals in there to fill in my guidelines because my guidelines weren't full enough. So depending on how full you like yours, you could add more or not. All right, so we're going to move on to this rose that I'm very excited about. We're starting in the center with a woven wheel rose. And you can probably see why I decided to do that daisy first, and now I've jumped over here because we are using the same color. And I think I have a whole nother strand of this orange color. So I'm gonna use a bit more of it, I think. If you see my original sample hoop here, it's hard to see, but I do have that orange in the very, very center. But it's, I think I'm going to add an extra layer of orange and then maybe, I don't know. So I was wondering if I should use this in-between color all the way out to here. I don't know. I guess, you know, it's up to you how you want this flower to look. The stitches can stay the same. It's just like how orange you want it versus how red you want it. So you can kind of vary where you make that transition. So my idea with this one was to make it a little bit more orange because that one, I mean, you can barely see this brighter orange in the center. Oopsies. Okay, so I am weaving my overs and unders. I guess I wasn't really telling you what I was doing. I assumed everyone already knew how to do one of these. So this is a woven wheel rose. It starts with an odd number of spokes made of straight stitches converging in the center. And you come back up with your needle near the center point. Don't come up right at the center or you will undo your last straight stitch. And then you start weaving. You can go clockwise, you can go counterclockwise, doesn't matter, just stick with the same direction the whole time. And you are weaving under and over the spokes, like so. Gets a little tricky towards the end because you don't want to stab any of your previous work. I'm actually going to go ahead and go down at this point and say that that is the end of my rose. So this next circle is filled with chain stitch. So it's kind of like a chain stitch rose with a woven wheel rose in the center. So I'm just starting here for kicks. You can start anywhere along the circle here. So it's going to spiral out, but I'm probably just, I think I'm going to do one lap of this orange and then switch to my next color. When I did this one, I just did the center part orange. And then once I got to the chain, I switched to the next color. So we'll see if this helps. So I do have some videos chain stitch, and I do have some videos chain stitch rose on my YouTube. So with this, what I did with that one, I did it a little different, which I will show you here as we go. I tried to keep this part towards the center like poofier. The inner part of the loop, I guess. And I really kept it loose. And I kept it really, really tight. You can see how tight I am coming up here to that center rose. So keep it super loose. And just really, you can poof these up if you want, or just let them fall where they fall. This is how we get this dramatic effect with this rose. Very three-dimensional, very poofy. Let's see, I feel like maybe this one was a little bit tight. Okay, where am I? And also, if you do, I don't need to make my stitches that big. If I do them smaller, I'm going to create more petals here, so I should probably do that. This is good timing because I'm almost out of this color on my needle. I have a whole nother ply left, so like I said, if you want to keep going with your orange or switch to the, what do I want to call that in between color? What would that be? It's like a salmon, I guess. Alright, so I'm going to stop there. Just tack this down. Okay, and I'm going to grab the next color. So this is where it gets a little weird. So instead of coming up on the outside, I'm actually going to come up in these holes. You see these holes that kind of left behind? I'm actually going to come up through those holes so that this is super tight. I don't know what this is called. It's just like a double-decker chain stitch, I guess. So same thing. Come up through that hole. Try to keep nice and loose. This I just tightened accident. The same thing here. I'm going to come up in this hole. You can see how much it covers that previous layer. So I actually don't even know if it helps doing that first row with orange because I'm basically just stitching right on top of it, huh? So maybe both of these should be orange if you want more of an orange rose. But we're just gonna stick to it. I think even this is pretty. If you have another pattern you're working on where you're doing roses and maybe you're sick of woven wheel, or maybe you're sick of chain stitch, you can do this little hybrid with the double deckers. Okay, last one. I'm gonna connect these. like that. And I'll come down in here to anchor. Okay, awesome. So now there's kind of a ring here you can see of more subtle petals. So we just finished this and now we're moving on to these petals. These are all going to be satin stitch and they're all kind of lengthwise, I guess. So we'll do, I'm going to do the closest one. So 1, 2, 3 I'll do with this color and then I'll switch, I believe. So hopefully you can see those shapes. They're like little crescents. Sorry, I'm just checking to see what's going on the back of my hoop. I haven't cut that orange off yet, so. All right. So pop up here. I'm gonna go down here so I can see. I'm going real slow because this is gonna kind of cover a little bit of what we already did. You can see I'm leaving a lot loose. You might prefer to do like a padded satin stitch here if you're having trouble getting that really loose satin stitch. So you would put down a layer of something first, maybe chain stitch since it's pretty poofy, and then do the satin stitch on top. Or you could even do a layer of satin stitch with a layer of satin stitch on top. Right, there's one. I'll do this guy. Right, one left over here. And that's okay. See how it's covering a little bit? That's okay. Because that's how rows look, right? Alright, so I'm just weaving on the bottom here so I can trim this floss. Get my orange out of there too. Now I'm going to move on to this brighter, redder color. And I have 1, 2, 3, 4 petals that I'm going to do same way we just did those other ones. So it looks like this one I can do first because I don't know if you can see this one's, oh, this one was supposed to be, okay, no, I did that wrong. I don't think it really matters which one is on top. was gonna say, oops, excuse me. Should do the one that's overlapped first, but I didn't. I did the one on top first, but that just means that this one will be, the next one will be on top instead of this one. Which, again, I don't, it's a rose, it doesn't matter. It's just a big mess of petals. There we go. Oops. I think, well, I'm wondering if I need another stitch here. So when I do this one, I just want to make sure if I come all the way over here, it'll cover up this little dent here. I think it will. Yep. It's getting caught on everything. Oh. I'm going to add one stitch here. It probably doesn't matter because that next petal will cover this guideline, but just for my own comfort. So I did give you guys, if you got the kit, there is a lot of extra of all these colors. So you can really use a lot of floss on this rose if you want. I'm kind of bugged by my anchor stitch here. I wonder if I can kind of move this over it some, kind of. No. You can always, instead of how I anchored mine, like in the middle of the previous row, you could kind of anchor it off to the side so it does get covered. I also feel like there's like a hole right here. Here, you can push it down. This petal. Oops. Gosh. I wish there was a better clamp to use. I like this one because it's actually stable. It's just a vise, but there's just so many little knobs on it that stick out. So I'm constantly getting stuck on it. And then it tightens my stitches. But the knobs are kind of like what makes it nice and tight and good. So what are you going to do? Alright. So here's the last one over here. This one's going to cover a lot. So I'm just holding this down kind of so it lays a little to the side, almost like a woven wheel rose would, you know, how our stitches lay kind of rounded. The tighter you have that, the more it's going to cover. Oops, that was my head. Let's see. Oops. So that looks pretty good. Alright. So next, you can see I didn't really get my I really didn't do so well trying to make an oranger flower. I mean, I think it is a little bit oranger. Nothing dramatic though. But I can see it way more than here. Here it's just like, where is it? So I guess that did help. Okay, so now we are changing gears again. So we have these 3 petals left. And they are also satin stitch, but I did them at different angles. So this one's kind of like this. And this one's like, this one's just out. That's probably the easiest one. So I also made these very puffy. You can see there's a lot of poof here. And there's nothing underneath it. But again, if you have a hard time like making poofy satin stitches like this, you can definitely just do regular satin stitch and then this satin stitch on top. So like a double layer of satin. Okay, I'm going to do this petal first. So this one just kind of goes straight back where we came from. So we're gonna have to do one more mini floral pattern to finish out this series. We've already got a fall one, which is the Cozy Harvest, a spring one, which is Tender Petals, and now this is summer wedding. So I think that's what it's called. Okay, so what I just did is I tucked my needle under and kind of poofed these up. You can do that at any time to kind of help. So, oh my gosh. I'm getting really mad at my clamp today. So the last mini pattern will be a winter bouquet. So I'm brainstorming that for the end of the year. And then we'll have a whole set of these cuties. So the inspiration for this design was actually my own wedding back in 2010. These were the colors of the arrangements on the tables. My bouquet was just the orange and the yellow. Very happy colors. And my bridesmaids, I had my friend, my stepsister, and my stepdaughter, and they were wearing like these light blue dresses. And then we had like a lot of navy as well. But the flowers were so lovely. My stepmom really helped out a lot. She's a big flower person, so she knew what would look good, and they did some really cool arrangements. Okay, I'm gonna poof these a little bit if I can. Really awkward angle with my clamp. So I think that's about it. I'm gonna do these other 2 petals kind of the same way with slightly different stitch directions, but in longer stitches, but it's the same deal. So I hope you enjoyed this kind of wild rose, kind of a fun combo of 3 different rose stitches. see, so for this one, it's going to be something like this. I'm still on my first length of this red color, so I gave you a lot of extra in case you do want to do that double padding, or I should say it's regular padding, but double satin. Or if you want yours hollow like mine, use a little less floss and fewer stitches to do. Just be careful, you know, with these hollow stitches that you don't snag them because they're loose, you know. Definitely easy to accidentally snag. Same with those really loose chain stitches in the center. All right, next, well, I don't know what we'll do. We'll do something fun. I'll probably go ahead and do that other daisy and then meet you up for some fun small flowers. Great, so I went ahead and I finished my other daisy here after doing that last bit on the roses. I started these vines because this vine is going to be the same. I just used 3 strands for those darker ones. For this lighter one, I'm using a full 6 ply of the bright green. And I am going to be doing back stitch. My first stitch, it was not going to be a back stitch because I have a knot at the end. Put this all the way up the back stitch. Make sure you are sharing your holes so it's nice and tight, no gaps. Alright, last back stitch, and then I am going to whip back down. So to do that, I'm going to just come up this hole and whip. Doesn't matter which way. I'll go this way just because it will be the easiest on my wrist. Make sure you go through every stitch. As you go, it should, you can kind of pull it down, help it lay better. This is just kind of an easy way to make a pretty smooth line with a little bit of a twist texture. Last one. And then I will come back on this side to go down. A little tug. Excellent. So next we're going to do petals that go up here. I do have some guidelines in, and feel free to stick to them exactly or be more freestyle, improv. Just fill the space, basically. These are all kind of facing up, but you do want some variation in the angle. Just going to add like a straight stitch back here to kind of cover in this space and fill in the gap. My husband's doing some work. He's building like a little place for the mail for when I have mail picked up. I'm shipping out kits and stuff. You know, it's Arizona, so it's not like it rains much, but we do have monsoon season, and when it does rain, the rain comes down right where I have my packages, and it's not good. So he's making like a little deck for them. Okay, that turned out kind of puny, but we'll keep going. So you want overlap, you want some variation in size, some variation in direction. It's okay if some of them cover up the actual vine there. And really there's room here for you to be creative. You have a full strand of each of these 3 colors, and that's more than enough. So if you want to add, I mean, you could double it. You could add a lot. Add a lot more. And you can see I, changed color as I went up. Dark, medium, light. But then there's, here I have like a darker color hidden here. So it kind of helps with the transition between those colors. So I will stop there because that's pretty self-explanatory. I think you're just going to keep doing those detached chain stitches all the way up. I am now going to demonstrate here. I will do our leaves. So our leaves are done with Cretan stitch, which is basically feather stitch, but touching. Feather stitch fill. Is that right? I think it's right. Anyways, so we're going to come up at the very top of your leaf, go down pretty close, leave a loop, and we're going to catch that loop. So see how we're working on the right side of the leaf? We're going to catch the loop, catch the loop on the left side of the line, my guideline. Give it a little pull, and then we do the opposite. So we come up on this side, down on this side I should say, and then catch my loop on the right side of the guideline. And then do it again. So go down on the right, catch my loop on the left, down on the left, catch on the right. It's like a zigzaggy feather. And we just do this all the way down. I find that it's hard to completely fill in a shape using this. So what I did is I came back with this really, really light green here that we didn't use much of. I went back on my sample hoop and kind of filled in some of the gaps here with straight stitches. I'll show you that here. If you're not into this leaf, if this is confusing, you don't like it, you can do whatever you want. You can do fishbone, you can do satin, you can do any kind of fill, stem stitch, leaf stitch, I am using 3-ply for this. That's definitely an interesting one. It creates that really unique braid down the center of the leaf. So towards the end here, we're kind of running out of space. So I think I can do this stitch. And then I can do the next stitch. And then at this point, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to come down and tack this down. And then to fill in the rest, since I have this flower in the way, I'm just going to fig it with some straight stitches. One there, one here. And we're going to be doing those bluebells right up to here, so a lot of this is going to get covered anyways, but just to show you, because it's going to be the same thing with all of these, where you kind of have to put in some some straight stitches to just fill in those gaps. All right, so then here I have my really light, I mean, it looks yellow right now when I'm looking at it. I call it like a light yellow, I'm sorry, a light green, but so at this point, if you want, you can add in some stitches. So I mostly see them near the top. I feel like at the top is where I have more of those gaps. So you can just come in and add some straight stitches here. You can do every one, you can do every other one, you can just place them where you need them. You can skip this all together. You could use this brighter green if you want. That might look nice too. Or even the darker green if you want to go darker. Or a mix to do some stitches of each color. So that's that. Or you could even use the same color. You could just add straight stitches of that same green. Okay. Next, I'm going to show you the bluebells. So, let's see. I'm going to start here because it's just going to be the easiest to see on the screen. So I'm just trying to weave my floss real quick along the back side. All right, so these puppies, we're doing a attached chain stitch. Come on. All right, tack that down. And you can see I'm like on my vine here. Alright, now I am going to do 2 teeny little stitches at the bottom. Teeny, teeny, tiny, tiny. 1. 2. And then finish it up with a stitch down the top. This one's nice and puffy. Like that. You can see how I filled them in like that all the way around, and you can practice changing how long these stitches are. You can change how fat your detached chain stitches are. You can have 2 stitches, straight stitches on top to make them even puffier. You're going to do a lot of them, so you'll have lots of practice. All right, go ahead and work on that, and then to finish up, I'll show you this last little flower, and we'll play around with some other details. So to finish this tiny flower, you can just do little petals using detached chain stitch, even smaller ones than we've already done. You'll be able to see the guideline for that one, and I can see the guideline for one right here. All the other guidelines are covered. I'm trying to pull that fuzz back. I may have to cut it because it's not listening to me. Oh, I pushed it back in. Okay. So then for the remainder of the petals, you're going to have to be, oopsies, I'm snagged. Oh, come on. It was a nice petal and I had to go and get snagged. Just going to give it a little bit of breathing room there. Okay, so it's going to keep going, but you're going to have to just use your best judgment to decide exactly where the remainder of the petals go for this flower. And if it goes in front of or behind that orange flower. And then of course you're free to add more of these throughout the embroidery. I'm going to stop here, I think, so it looks like it's behind. So at this point you can add more tiny flowers like this throughout. You can add little French knots throughout. Obviously I have not completed my bluebells or this flower, but one thing I thought might look nice is to add some, oh here we are, I couldn't, it was in my lap. I was just going to show, if you want you can just add like French knots on these at the tips, just to add a little bit more of whatever color. I mean I just chose this, the medium pink color. Oh, lovely. Going really well. There. I just thought like it maybe a little trio would be cute to look like, I don't know if they are little buds or if they're little seeds or if they're just really teeny flowers, but just a fun way to move the color around and add more stitching if you're not done yet. Oh my gosh. I am a wreck here getting stuck on stuff. There you go. So something like that, or you could do like little straight stitch petals. For goodness sakes. I'm having a really, really awful floss party on the back of my work. I don't know what this is either, but just, I don't know, just ideas, different little things you can do. But I hope you had fun. I hope you're enjoying this piece. And that's it. Send me an email if you have any questions. I'm always happy to help.